"These seats are for family, so go eat in the bathroom." My brother said this at the fancy restaurant on Thanksgiving. Everyone laughed. Since all that was prepared for me was the bill for the meal, I cut ties with my family and shared the video on social media. The next morning. My name is Lauren Collins. Since childhood, I've always been an outsider within my family circle. I didn't quite fit into the perfect family portrait created by my parents, Edward and Janet, my brother Kevin, and my sister Madison. Our home was a typical two-story surrounded by a white wooden fence in the suburbs of New England. On the surface, we might have seemed like the perfect family. But the reality was completely different. It all began when I was 6 years old. On Christmas morning, Kevin received the latest gaming console and Madison received an expensive dollhouse. Meanwhile, I was delighted to receive an encyclopedia. An encyclopedia? That's not very childlike. You really are odd. I wonder who you take after. My mother casually remarked as she looked at me. I still remember the pain that shot through my chest at that moment. It was an unbearable pain. However, my grandparents were the only ones who recognized me. They would secretly give me special books and proudly talk about my successes in science. "Lauren, your talent is something special," my grandmother would whisper. "Someday, the world will understand that." And then, she gave me a beautiful math book. "This is our secret," she said. And one unforgettable moment happened the day before my 13th birthday. I had won first place at a school science fair. I had spent weeks researching a new method to capture solar energy more efficiently. The judges praised me as a promising young scientist. When I returned home excited, my mother greeted me with a cold look. "I'm busy preparing for Madison's dance recital tomorrow. You'll need to help out around the house then," she said. My father was equally indifferent. "That's nice," he said without taking his eyes off the news program. The next day, my parents forgot my birthday and went to Madison's dance recital. When they found out, my grandparents came to me. "I'm sorry we couldn't come earlier," my grandmother said sadly. "They took me out for a special dinner, and my grandfather gave me a sketchbook and a set of fine art pencils. A bright mind like yours needs a creative outlet," he said. When we returned home, my parents were angry. "Why did you take Lauren out?" My mother confronted my grandmother. Lauren had chores to do at home, she tried to argue, but she was powerless in front of my parents. "This isn't your problem, Mom," my mother sternly said. Since then, my grandparents became more cautious in defending me. In my last year of high school, I was filling out college applications when my father walked into my room. He frowned upon seeing my application to MIT. "Be realistic, Lauren," he said. "Such universities aren't for you. Consider the local community college instead." I nodded silently, but inwardly, I rebelled against his words. Weeks later, I received an acceptance letter and a full scholarship offer from MIT. When I told my family, my mother was dumbfounded and my father coldly said, "Well, you're lucky," Kevin laughed. "No one would believe you could get into such a university." That night, crying in my room, I vowed to succeed to prove my worth. During my 4 years at college, I rarely went home during vacations. Instead, I spent most of my time in the university library, pursuing my future path. I kept my distance from my parents and siblings as much as possible. At the pleading of my grandparents, I only attended family gatherings once every few years. After graduation, I started my career as an entry-level programmer at a major tech company. At 25, I decided to start my own business. It was a startup focused on AI-powered security systems. I started the company in a cheaply rented garage using my modest savings. The image recognition algorithm I developed in sleepless nights outperformed industry standards by 30%. When a tech magazine featured this discovery, a prominent Silicon Valley investor called it revolutionary and offered me $5 million in seed funding. My company then began to attract industry attention. My technology was adopted by major banks and government agencies and my employees grew to 150. Forbes magazine listed me as one of the top entrepreneurs under 30. The week of my 20th birthday, I announced another breakthrough. It was a new security protocol that combined blockchain and AAA. It was proven to prevent 99.8% of data breaches. A week after the announcement, I received acquisition offers from 5 major tech companies. Eventually, I agreed to sell my company to a global tech giant for an astounding amount of $850 million. 2 weeks after my family learned of my success, I received a call from Kevin. "Hey, Lauren, that's incredible." His voice had suddenly warmed. "I'm actually in a bit of trouble, struggling with a car loan." At first, I intended to refuse, but deep down, there was still a part of me seeking their approval. If I helped them, surely they would recognize my worth. For years I had wanted to be acknowledged as a true member of the family, not an oddity. I thought lending money might bridge that gap. And honestly, I wanted to prove my success. I wanted to show my family, who once looked down on me, that I was now successful enough to financially assist them. I ended up sending him $50,000. There was a promise of repayment, but it never materialized. Next was Madison. Her husband had failed in his business and they were about to lose their house, she said. She asked for $30,000 as temporary help. Out of goodwill, I sent the money again. The disappointment I felt when I saw their photos from a European trip on social media months later was indescribable. My parents were no exception. At first, they were modest, but soon their small request began to accumulate. A new car for my father, a necessary cosmetic surgery for my mother, renovations for their house. The list went on endlessly. Each time I fulfilled these requests, all I got in return were superficial words of thanks. In 1 year, I had loaned over $150,000 to my family. Our conversations always ended up discussing what more they wanted. They rarely asked about my life or feelings. They chose to exploit my success rather than acknowledge it. Realizing this, I increasingly avoided family gatherings. And I stopped responding to their requests. But everything changed one Thanksgiving night. It started with a phone call. It was my grandmother. "Lauren, please. I want you to come for Thanksgiving this year. We're all having dinner at Grand Plaza." Her voice was frail but determined. "Without you, the family isn't complete." Her words struck a chord and I agreed. "All right, Grandma. I'll come for you." On Thanksgiving, I wore my finest black suit to Grand Plaza. This suit, which I wore on the day of my first big deal, gave me confidence. I needed it that night. As I entered the restaurant, my family was already seated at a long table. My grandparents, parents, Kevin, Madison and her husband Brian, and the kids were all laughing and talking like a scene from a movie. "Lauren," Kevin called out. His smile seemed pleasant, but I sensed coldness in his eyes. He stood up and pointed to an empty seat at the end of the table. "It's been a while. Come sit here." As I moved towards the indicated seat, Kevin spoke up. "Sorry, this seat is for family." He chuckled slightly, pointing to a spot slightly away from the table. "Slaves eat in the toilet." Sniggers arose around the table. Both my mother and father had restrained smiles. Only my grandparents' faces darkened. "How long do you intend to keep making such childish jokes?" I asked, maintaining my composure. Then I called over a waiter and asked him to bring another chair near the table. Leaving crossed my mind, but I saw it as a perfect opportunity. I decided to settle things with my family right there. "What will you order?" the waiter asked. "I'll just have a coffee," I replied. "Coffee only." My mother frowned. "On Thanksgiving?" "I'm not hungry," I lied. In reality, I wanted to conserve my energy for dealing with them. "Well, everyone," Kevin raised his voice. "Tonight is a special night. Order whatever you like." He smirked at me. "Right, Lauren." I ignored his gaze. One by one everyone chose the most expensive items from the menu. Lobster, caviar, vintage wine, their orders became increasingly costly. "Let's toast." Kevin raised his glass to family reunions. While everyone toasted, I just held my coffee cup without moving. As dinner progressed, I let myself be carried along by their conversation. Kevin's golf scores, Madison's new pool house, gossip about relatives. The conversation moved on, ignoring my presence. "So, Lauren," suddenly, my father turned to me. What was it?" "Computer job. How is it?" "It's technology investment," I replied calmly. "It's going well, thank you." "Is that so? Is that so?" My father nodded, but there was no understanding in his eyes. When the meal ended and the desserts were cleared, the waiter brought a small black tray to the table. On it was a single bill. "Here's the check," he said, placing the tray in front of my father. Then, Kevin quickly grabbed it and thrust it in front of me. I was shocked as I looked at the bill. $4,387. It was an unbelievable amount. I lost my words. "Oh, Lauren, don't worry about it." Kevin spoke. "It's a trivial amount for you, isn't it?" Expectant faces spread around the table. They assumed I would pay. Was this your plan? Anger welled up inside me. To invite me just to make me pay the bill. "What are you talking about, Lauren?" My mother feigned confusion. "This is a family gathering." "Yes, a family gathering," I said quietly. "But have you ever treated me as part of the family?" Silence took over the table. "You're successful now. You should share a bit," my father finally said. "We're family, right?" Those words broke something inside me. "Family." My voice trembled. "You have treated me as an oddity since I was a child. Far from celebrating my success, you've been jealous and now you're reaching for my money again. Is this what family is?" "Don't exaggerate," Kevin said with a laugh. "It's just a dinner bill. Just a dinner bill. $4,387. Kevin." I pushed the bill towards him. "Pay it yourself." "You're joking, right?" he said as his face turned red. "We all ordered thinking you would pay. That's the problem." I stood up. "You've always mocked me and now you only think of using me because I'm successful. But it's over now." I took out my smartphone from my bag and searched for Wayne in my contacts. He was my partner and one of the best lawyers in New York. "Lauren." His voice came through the phone. "What's going on?" "Wayne, I'm sorry to bother you, But can you come to Grand Plaza? I said, there's a legal issue here. Only you can resolve it. I'll be there in 10 minutes, he responded immediately. As I hung up, tension filled the air around the table. Did you call a lawyer? Madison asked in disbelief. Yes, I replied calmly. I think this is an attempt at fraud. You tried to deceive me into paying a high bill. I'll have my lawyer assess this situation. Wait a minute, Lauren, my mother said, unable to hide her panic. This is a family matter. There's no need to involve outsiders. It's too late now, I said. You've been mocking me for a long time. That ends tonight. 10 minutes later, Wayne Jackson entered the restaurant. He was dressed in an elegant gray suit and walked with the confidence that spoke of his courtroom experience. A dignified aura surrounded him. Lauren, he approached and gave me a light kiss. What's happening? I briefly explained the situation. Wayne looked at the bill and frowned. This is clearly premeditated, he said in a professional tone. Inviting you here and then, without prior agreement, expecting you to cover an expensive bill is problematic. You're joking, right? Kevin stood up. This is just a family dinner. There's no problem. And you are? Wayne turned to him. Collins. Kevin Collins. Well, Mr. Collins, this can be seen as an intentional attempt to impose an unfair financial burden on Lauren. Wayne's voice was calm but carried weight, especially since you initially insulted her and then expected her to pay. Insult? My father exclaimed. What are you talking about? Sir, Wayne turned to him. The fact that Kevin initially used the term slave towards Lauren is a clear insult. Silence fell around the table. Let's resolve this simply, Wayne continued. Everyone pays for their own orders, and this issue is resolved. That's ridiculous, Kevin shouted. We can't afford such amounts. Then why did you order them? Wayne asked calmly. Was it not because you assumed Lauren would cover the costs? Silence dominated the table. Please understand, Wayne continued. This isn't just a family meal. It appears to be a premeditated attempt to use Lauren. If you refuse to pay, we may need to take legal action. Wait, my mother hurriedly said. This is a misunderstanding. We just wanted to have a meal with Lauren. Then why did you call her slave? Wayne pressed. Why did you order expensive menu without her consent? Wayne, that's enough. I put my hand on his arm. It's clear now. They don't see me as family. To them, I'm just an ATM. Suddenly, my grandmother slammed her hand on the table. That's enough, she said with anger in her voice. As the eldest in this family, I will not tolerate such behavior. She glared at my parents and siblings. You have treated Lauren terribly. You've looked down on her since she was a child. And now, when she's successful, you want to ride on her coattails. Grandma Kevin tried to protest, but she raised her hand to stop him. I'm not finished, she said. Edward, Janet, you should have loved and supported your daughter fairly, but you've always alienated Lauren. And now all of you have plotted this disgraceful scheme. Mom, that's not true. My father tried to argue, but she ignored him. Lauren, she turned to me. You have grown into a strong woman. I am proud of you. And if you choose to distance yourself from this family, I understand. Her words deeply resonated with me. My grandmother had always been my ally, but she had never defended me in public with such a strong stance before. Thank you, Grandma, I said. I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but I managed to hold them back. So, what shall we do about this? Wayne picked up the bill again. Legally, everyone should pay for their own orders. However, realistically, I will pay, my grandfather suddenly said. He had been quiet until now, but there was a look of determination in his eyes. But there is a condition, he said, looking at my parents, Kevin and Madison. All of you must apologize to Lauren and ask for her forgiveness. Otherwise, I will exclude you from my will and the inheritance will go entirely to Lauren. A murmur spread around the table. Dad, you're joking, right? My father said. I'm not joking, Edward, my grandfather said sternly. I have been disappointed by your behavior for a long time. Tonight is the last straw. Kevin blushed and reluctantly turned towards me. Lauren, I'm sorry. His words lacked sincerity. My parents and Madison also made formal apologies. Is that satisfactory? My grandfather asked me. I nodded slightly and looked at Wayne. Yes, this resolves it, Wayne said. However, it is up to Lauren to decide how she wants to handle her relationship with her family in the future. Of course, my grandfather said. He took a card out of his wallet and handed it to the waiter. I took Wayne's arm and stood up. Let's go, I said quietly. Before leaving the table, I approached my grandparents and hugged them gently. Thank you. Grandma, Grandpa, I whispered. You are the only true family I have. Call anytime, she said while holding my hand. You're not alone. We left the restaurant. As we stepped outside, the cold air of New York's night brushed against my face. It felt like it was heralding a new beginning. Standing on the balcony of Wayne's luxurious apartment, we looked down at the Manhattan nightscape. The city lights twinkled like stars. "I'm really sorry to have involved you in this," I said. "I didn't expect things to turn out like this tonight." Wayne smiled gently. "I'd do anything for you, Lauren. Besides, their behavior was definitely problematic. But, you couldn't actually have sued them, could you?" I asked. "To be honest, it would have been difficult," he admitted. "But they didn't need to know that." He winked. We laughed, and then I took a deep breath. I've been troubled by my relationship with them for a long time. I always felt like an outsider, as if I had no value. But tonight, I finally drew a line for myself. "You are an amazing woman, Lauren." Wayne touched my cheek. "Talented, intelligent, and compassionate. It's their loss if they can't see that." "Thank you." I held his hand. "I'm truly grateful to have you by my side." Rayan looked slightly bewildered, then suddenly reached into his pocket. Actually, he pulled out a small blue velvet box. "I was planning to give this to you tonight." He slowly knelt down and opened the box. Inside, a beautiful diamond ring sparkled. "Lauren Collins, I want to walk through life with you. I am impressed every day by your strength, intellect, and kindness. Will you marry me?" Tears overflowed in my eyes. "Yes, Wayne. Of course." He slid the ring onto my finger and stood up to embrace me. Our kiss was filled with the promise of a new beginning. Late that night my smartphone rang. It was a message from my grandmother. "I am proud of your courage. It's wonderful that you've learned to know and protect your worth. I love you, Lauren. And Wayne is a good man." I smiled as I replied, "Thank you, Grandma. I wouldn't be who I am today without your support. I love you." Looking out the window I saw the first light of dawn beginning to illuminate the sky. A new day, a new beginning. For a long time, I had sought my family's approval. But now, I had learned to accept myself and recognize my own worth. Sometimes, the most difficult choices are the most necessary. Distancing myself from my family had been painful, but it was also the first step towards self-respect and healing. I smiled as I saw Wayne sleeping peacefully beside me. Together, we would build a new family. A family based on love, respect, and understanding. The next morning, an unexpected situation arose. I received a call from an unknown number. "Is this Lauren Collins?" a young woman's voice asked. "I'm Sandra Brown from the New York Daily. Could you comment on last night's incident at Grand Plaza?" "What incident?" I asked, confused. "A video capturing your family insulting you has gone viral on social media," she explained. "It's currently trending." I stood frozen. Wayne quickly took out his smartphone and started searching. "Ah, this," he said, showing me the screen. The video, secretly filmed by a guest at the next table, showed Kevin calling me slave and the entire family laughing. Then, it showed me calling Wayne, my lawyer and my grandfather eventually paying the bill. Everything was vividly captured. I was at a loss for words. "It has already been viewed over 1,000,000 times, Wayne said quietly. "The comments are overwhelmingly supportive of you." Over the next few days, the situation escalated. Kevin's workplace was identified and his social media accounts were flooded with critical comments. Madison's fashion blog was labeled as hypocritical. Paparazzi appeared in front of my parents' house tracking their daily movements. Local newspapers contrasted my success story with my family's cruel behavior. An article titled "How a Genius Entrepreneur Was Alienated by Her Family" was shared nationally. I declined all interview requests. My intention was not to publicly disgrace them, but merely to defend my own dignity. However, the video had an unexpected effect. Young women began reaching out to me, saying they had experienced similar situations. They described my actions as empowering and strong. A year later, Wayne and I got married in a small ceremony. It was held in a beautiful garden in Central Park, surrounded by close friends. My grandparents attended, but I did not invite my parents or siblings. My grandmother said with a radiant smile, "You have truly found happiness." "Yes, Grandma," I replied. "I've learned to value myself, and I've learned that true family isn't just about blood relations." As we built our new family, I vowed to provide the love and support I had longed for as a child. A year into our marriage, I learned about my old family's situation through a call from my grandmother. "Kevin has gone bankrupt," she told me. "After that social media incident, it became difficult for him to stay at his job. So he quit and all his high-risk investments failed. His sports car was repossessed and he's now living in a motel." I wasn't surprised. Kevin had always lacked foresight and could never curb his impulses. His demands for my money had been to support his own lavish spending. Madison and Brian have divorced. They've been fighting constantly since the incident. She's moved back into your parents' house with the children. "And what about Mom and Dad?" I asked further. "They're struggling." My grandmother carefully chose her words. "Your father was forced into early retirement. They don't have enough savings and it seems they're not well with Madison and the grandchildren there." I nodded quietly. My father had always believed his job was secure and hardly saved for the future. I occasionally think about my old family. I harbor no hatred towards them. Just a sense of loneliness and a bit of sadness. While the wounds from the past may never fully heal, they have made me stronger, and they taught me to see myself as valuable and to never compromise on my own worth.